Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the Affordable and Agile Composite Additive Manufacturing Structures project call Kickoff webinar. If you're having any issues with audio or video, please raise your hand or type in the chat box, and I'll try and get that squared away as quickly as possible. We're going to let some more people join, get the slides shared, and we'll get started right at 2 p.m. Eastern. All right, we're right at the start time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you once again for joining the Affordable and Agile Composite Additive Manufacturing Structures project call Kickoff webinar. Just a quick note before we get started, and I hand it over to John Martin. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them into the Q&A space on your Microsoft screen. We'll do our best to answer all of your questions. All of these questions during the webinar will be collected, and they'll be posted with answers to the project call page on September 18th. Make sure to get your questions in on time, September 11th, so that we can answer them completely. There may be some questions on the webinar today that we want to confirm information on, so we may collect your questions and post them to the website. Just be aware that we will answer all of your questions. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to John Martin. So John, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Jason. So my name is John Martin. I'm the AM Research Director here at America Makes. So like Jason mentioned, we're going to go over the Affordable and Agile Composite Additive Manufactured Structures project call today. We released it last Wednesday, I believe, the RFP. The acronym we're going with on this one is, I guess we'll pronounce it AACAMS. So let's see. All right. So a little bit on the background of this project call. So it's going to be focused on what the AFRL is referring to as CFAM, which stands for Continuous Fiber Additive Manufacturing, which I think, is going to be similar to your continuous fiber reinforced composites, but specifically, there's some nuances. Is that additive or is it not, or what kinds of techniques for that are additive? So obviously we're focused on additive here. So a polymer that is reinforced by continuous fibers is what we're looking for this project call. And it's essentially going to be laying the groundwork for future strategic work in this area to address DoD needs. So what this project call is seeking is a project, either, individual performer or a team, but to map out a CFAM landscape, identify the technology gaps that are currently limiting the adoption, and then also looking for the needs of technology integrators. And I'll go over a little bit more on that later. But that's the main crux of it, is bringing those two, if you want to call them contributors, stakeholders together, and get CFAM moving and mature to address some needs within the DoD. So the deliverables for this, or the overall outcome, I guess, would be, in a sense, sort of like a roadmap, but a time-phased technology maturation plan, of how, basically doing an assessment of current CFAM capabilities and the technology available. And this is going to include not just the manufacturing process or printing capability, but you could see listed there in the second bullet, material suppliers, design software providers, printer OEMs, inspection providers, performance analysis software providers, and then also university researchers. So all looking at, the research aspect all the way up until you do testing and inspection. So the whole entire, if you want to call it, refer to it as the life cycle or value chain of everything that would go into a CFAM product, and in its end use, and any identifying different barriers and gaps and things that are preventing adoption. So this graphic here is just pulled from the RFP. It was referenced on the previous slide. This was provided to us from our friends at AFRL. So, but I think it's really good that it shows, and let me see what page it's on here, it's on page 9 of the RFP. But this is the two parties that they're trying to pull together, and I think this is a really good idea. It's something that we're currently doing now, with a lot of other additive technologies, but this is kind of getting ahead of it and addressing it in the beginning stages of this landscape assessment and road mapping period. So if you look on the left, you have technology developer perspectives. So this can be, software design tools, materials development and performance, printing hardware, inspection capabilities. So there's that side of it, of kind of the engineering aspects that go into making CFAM or that technology mature and bringing capabilities to it. But then also on the right side of the graphic is customer and integrator perspectives. So looking at the product side. So if, and things like specifically like DoD requirements, mentioning small unmanned aircraft, drones, and then munitions are also specifically mentioned in the RFP for different applications. But then there could also be other applications identified as well. But this is taking into account people that would potentially adopt this technology and put it to use on an existing platform or new platforms that they plan to create in the future, or like I said, ones that are existing, and that will identify how to fit the idea is how to fit the technology development aspect into the customer integrator and make sure that they kind of go hand in glove as much as we can in the beginning phase, and a lot of that will alleviate issues potentially with qualification and certification that we see come up quite often now in a lot of other additive technologies and application spaces. So if we look at just a breakdown of the technical approach, so what the main thing what they're looking delivered is a comprehensive landscape analysis of CFAM, time phased, so basically like roadmap, things to get this information would be ideally a mix of literature reviews, subject matter expert interviews, sensing sessions, stakeholder workshops, sponsor feedback. Other methodologies can be proposed, but just kind of looking at best practices for constructing a roadmap and getting a broad perspective from the community. And a couple specific things that we highlighted in the slides from technical approach, which is called out on page 10 of the RFP. There's a number of bullet points listed. We'll just hit on a few here in the slides, though. Is establish and execute a strategic outreach plan. So this is to identify the right stakeholders, and this would be your initial strategic outreach plan that would be in the proposal. So there's noted there that there will be AFRL subject matter experts that will be available to refine your approach that you propose, but we would like to see a rather detailed approach of how you would pull in the necessary expertise and stakeholders to get that perspective needed to lay out a very useful, I'll say, landscape for CFAM and adoption with aligning with the DoD needs. And then it's noted here, proposers shall conduct outreach or outbriefing at no fewer than one widely attended forum or conference. And then there's a few listed there for reference. So another big aspect is proposers shall conduct no fewer than 2 workshops. So workshops will be required in a key element of formulating the roadmap, and at least 2, and one is highly encouraged to be located in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States, and that's due to that region has a specific cluster of that type of continuous fiber reinforced composite technology and in history in that area. So that would just be a strategic place to have a workshop on CFAM, but no less than 2. And then we have some other requirements listed in the technical approach, and then we've also pulled elements of those into the evaluation criteria. So right here, maximum acceptable period of performance, 15 months total, 12 months for execution, 3 months for reporting. And I have here, this is also just pulled from the RFP, but just a little kind of emphasis on some of the key deliverables. So during the period of performance, there was a couple key deliverables that AFRL wanted to make sure that proposers were very aware of. One is preliminary findings from stakeholder engagement must be ready by April 1st of 2026. So that'll be a relatively quick deliverable after the project start. And then key final deliverables is the CFAM gap analysis and prioritization, and then roadmap requirements for America Makes members. And this is to inform future America Makes and member CFAM investments. So this is I guess an element of the roadmap, or I guess it could be a separate one outside of what would be used to inform the DoD investment in a general sense from CFAM. But what they want to do is they want to make sure that the America Makes requirements from our roadmap are in alignment with this. And this is in anticipation for any potential future funding in this area. And it'll help just align things with the Institute in general, with the roadmap for additive manufacturing, and then with the CFAM roadmap. So if we look at the funding, it's going to be $450,000, and we're expecting one award for this. So the cost share, there's no minimum cost share requirement, although a cost share goal is 25%. So that's strongly encouraged. So that's going to be looked at and part of the evaluation, but we do understand they didn't, AFRL, the customer, and American Makes as well. We didn't want to, you know, cost constrain any potential proposers. So it's not, it's just trying to be understanding of different parties who would propose. But that is a goal, is to have that cost share to basically be able to do a little more of a thorough job, especially with the workshops and everything, with the extra dollars in there. So if we look at the schedule, project was announced on the August 27th, and then questions from proposers are going to be due a week from today, and then we will have the responses from those for those questions back up on our website a week following that. So that would be 2 weeks out from today, so September 18th. And then you can see some of the other dates here. Proposal submission due date is going to be near the end of October. It's going to be October 28th. And then we are going to try and have our decision and notifications go out to the winning team a month prior, November 28th. So if we look at some of the eligibility, so the lead proposer is going to need to be a current America Makes member in good standing, which would be paid in full by October 14th. And then project team members are not required to be America Makes members for this project, but are highly encouraged to do so. And then also too, it's listed in the RFP, but and it's here on this bullet point as well. Just to clarify or make sure everyone understands, if you are a project member on the team for this project and not an America Makes member, you won't be able to go to the project team discussions and updates. Just contributing to the project, we won't be able to, I guess, get the full context of the meetings and everything with the DoD and the government. It's so that's going to be for America Makes members only. And then a note here on cost share and eligibility and good standing. So here's our general language for eligibility. Any foreign nationals conducting work on the project shall be outlined within the proposed technical approach. So this is something that we just need to know up front, get it cleared with the DoD and make sure everything's okay before moving forward. So we need to know that up front in the proposal process. And then here's a list of countries that we cannot have any foreign national participation on our projects with people from any of these countries. So deliverables and reporting are on 14 and 15. So I'll just kind of touch on these. So the deliverables, relatively standard except customized for a road mapping effort, but similar to our other projects. Except specifically, just to mention again, the preliminary findings report for AFRL will be due on April 1st of 2026. And then strategic outreach plan, which is probably something a little different. The initial strategic outreach plan is to be included with your proposal. The final strategic outreach plan is to be no later than 3 months after the project start. And then there's mention in there of the workshops, and then a lot of the other things in the deliverables are what we would typically have. And then if we go to reporting requirements, it's essentially a reflection of the deliverables. Evaluation criteria. So the way we have the scoring broken down for this, technical approach and methodology is 20%, data management plans 15%, the technology dissemination to American Makes members and impact the DoD is 30%, program management approach is 15%, and then cost is 20%. So just note a couple things. The technology dissemination is weighted quite a bit higher than it normally is for this project, and that's essentially the reasoning for that is to make sure that we have good justification in the proposals of how this is, because since it's a roadmap, how this is going to benefit basically future strategy for CFAM moving forward. So that's very important. And then the cost is 20%. So that's quite a bit higher than normal. Sometimes it's not worth anything, and sometimes it's worth, a little bit, but this one's worth more. And it's not just the amount of cost share, but it also goes into the, so not just the quantity, but also the quality. So just keep that in mind. So if we look at proposal and contracting information, just a note on the executive summaries, they must contain information that's publicly releasable and not proprietary. And then as far as the rest of the body of the technical proposal, it doesn't have to be, but just for the executive summaries, no fee allowed. And then the cover page of your proposal should include your unique entity identifier and cage of at least the lead team on there. So we have that readily accessible. And then a little bit about additional information for quickening up the contracting process. And that wraps it up. So are there any questions?
I have
No
a quick question.
Oh, go right ahead. Sorry.
This is Eric Versus from TBGA. So the anticipated notification is end of November. What is the expected period of performance for this when we'd be on contract and ready to kick off?
That I am not exactly sure.
Trying to gauge how much time between contract award and that April 1st date.
Yeah.
I know things can change, but it's just what I had in mind.
Yes. We're going to have to check for sure, but just from what I remember hearing, I think it was like a January. Sometime in January was the hope.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll have an official answer for that up on the website. But yeah, thank you for asking. That's a good question.
All right. So yeah, if anybody else has a question, if you want to come off mute, ask your question, that's fine. Otherwise, if you want to put it in the Q&A, I can ask John.
Hello?
Yep, go right ahead.
Hi, yeah, this is Felix Tran from Eaton Corporation. I had a question about subcontracting. Is there a preference whether or not the proposer subcontracts with an equipment manufacturer of the CFAM technology due to potential bias or, I guess in a way, conflict of interest?
I don't know. I guess that could go either way. It could be seen as a
Mhm.
positive or negative, but I see your point. Um, I don't know. I guess we'd have to reach out to the AFRL folks and see, and get that posted just to let you know that, yeah, so you're not thinking that's gonna hurt your proposal. I would say probably not at this point, but I do see that, yeah, how maybe there would be concern that that could introduce some bias into the findings of the
Mhm.
roadmap. That's a kind of a tough one.
Yep, exactly why I asked.
I had the same question. Larry
All right, I've
Dickinson
got
here
it.
with 3F.
All right, I got the question noted, and I'll make sure that we get that answered for you.
Yeah, and just to clarify, so you guys are asking about having an official team member on the project that is an OEM for CFAM, basically.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah,
Correct.
we'll find that out. I know we want to hear from those people, but yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know if we want them on the actual project, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll find that out for you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Can we expand the question to an equipment manufacturer and or equipment user of the particular CFAM technology?
Yeah. Yep.
And I would even include material suppliers
Okay.
if they're separate from the equipment manufacturer.
Yep. Yeah, anyone that would have, potential benefit to gain.
Yeah, I guess the word's what? Apparent conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also had a
Okay.
different question.
Yep, go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Again, Larry Dickinson here with 3F. What technology readiness level or commercialization status is this wanting to include? Is there a restriction?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there a restriction?
Yeah, so on all of our, pretty much all of our RFPs, we have the language in there of TRL and or MRL of 4 through 7, because that's basically like our mandate to operate in. Sometimes we'll dip down into the 3s. For this effort, it's focused on 4 to 7, but it's also, I think, if there's technologies that are comfortably sitting at a 3 and will have impact within the near term, like a year or two, for the DoD to field things like drones. I think that would be relevant to the roadmap, but primary focus is going to be 4 to 7. Is that what you were looking for?
Yes, since it's a technology roadmap, was there an emphasis on young technologies or not yet commercial university published type technologies, or just focus on the 4 through 7?
Yeah, I think the primary focus would be 4 through 7, but to include lower technology maturation levels, I think would be okay. Just as an answer for now, but we'll get a definitive answer posted on our website for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So we do have a couple of questions in the Q&A, but I think we might have to follow up on these. I'll read them out for you, John, but I don't know if we can answer these. Might have to follow up. Since this effort is framed as a roadmap study rather than a technical build or demo, what technical approach and methodology do you expect to see? And then given the deliverables a roadmap study, what quantitative KPPs are most appropriate and impactful? I don't know if those are questions that we can answer. Ali, I think we're going to have to follow up with you on those on the website.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up with those. And then, yeah, there's a decent amount of times too that we do leave some obscurity in the project calls, because we don't want to, I guess if you want to say, stifle innovation or good ideas, and kind of, we don't want to fix our proposers into a box that's not optimal, and try and rely on the responses of what would be the best path forward for some of these things, some of the approaches.
All right, and then here's another one. I think this is a good one. So do you expect international perspectives, for example, Israel and NATO partners, to be included in the roadmap study, or is this strictly going to be US focused?
I don't know. I'll just say that. I was wondering that same thing when we were kind of putting this together, and I am not sure, but we'll definitely get that answered. I think it's going to be global capabilities, but we're going to want to double check with AFRL on that one.
Right. All right, I think that's just a comment. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. If anybody has another question, you want to come off mute and ask, go right ahead.
Yeah, this is Stephen Floyd. Question regarding like JCP or DD 2345 form. Is that required for this?
I don't think so. I don't remember any language in there that this is going to be held at a distro D level. So I think it's going to be standard at distro C. So yeah, I don't think you're going to be required to have that. But let's note that down too, Jason, and just clarify on that.
All right, got it.
I don't know if we put that, because usually if we require it, we'll put it in the RFP. But if we don't require it, I think we just don't say anything. But yeah, maybe we should start to just verify one way or another.
Larry Dickinson here with 3F. I guess I'm full of questions today. Question about partnering and teaming, how to get together. We are interested in partnering, and an opportunity to reach out for others, and the mechanism to find those partners among America Makes members. How to do that.
So
and then I
that's,
guess, and the question there too is there an emphasis or value in more comprehensive or bigger teams?
so the first part of your question is great timing because I need to show you guys our partnering tool. That's a fantastic question. I was just talking to our engagement manager about it earlier today. He wanted me to make sure I showed this. So I'll do that in a second. Second part was about having a larger team. Is that more advantageous? That's going to be. I mean, I think it definitely depends. I think in a general sense, it depends. Well, it depends in just across the board, but also on topic area and funding amount, period of performance. So some of our project calls are relatively involved and the funding amount is a little higher. So it's usually a good idea to have a strong team. For a project like this, it could make sense as long as it's, everybody has a role and it fits in the budget and they could work efficiently, I guess, within the timeline. I think a case can be made that would be viewed as positively, but also, I think with a project like this, that's, not, it's a shorter period of performance and, beginning stages, but it depends on who you have on your team a lot. I mean, that's the main thing. So yeah, for something like this, in a general sense, I don't think it would be viewed negatively to have a large team, but it would have to be articulated pretty well as to why there's so many people, I guess, on the team. But I could see that being really cool, I guess, or good if someone put a strong case forward. So the teaming tool, I'm gonna go ahead and share that window. Right here. So if you go, what I'm showing right now is this, if you were to go to the web page for the project call, and you could see like just kind of a quick overview of dates and budget, but in a quick overview rundown, program description, download the RFP, and then submission process, and some of these things down here. It's a relatively new interface on our website. It's really nice. But if you go to where it says program description and where you download the RFP, over to your right, now this is going to be for all of our project calls, so this is just an example of this one. There's going to be this little, I don't know what you want to call it, interactive kind of embedded pop-up. So interested in teaming. So it's a relatively new teaming tool that we've developed at the Institute, led by Zane, our engagement manager. And he's really trying to let our membership know about this. So I'm glad you asked, Larry. But you just, this is where you find it. Click on Team Up, and then you'll have this pop up of project called teaming. Give you a little message here. You could reach out to Zane. Here's his email address if you have any issues with anything or any questions. But you would type in your information, so company name, and then whoever you want the contact name to be for the company, and their job title, and then a little extra information, and then submit. And what that'll do is that'll go to our member portal. So if you're a member, so if you're not a member, your information will now be in our member portal that you're interested in teaming up for this project call. So you won't be able to go in the member portal and see your own information because you're not a member, but your information's in there for that you're interested in teaming on this project. So our members, when they can log into their member portal and they can go to this team up section and they can see everyone that put in their information of who's interested in teaming up. So if they're looking for maybe people that they've worked with before or interested in working with, or maybe if they don't really know and they're just looking in general of who's interested, that's the tool that we have set up to do exactly what you were asking. And we're encouraging people to use that on all of our project calls because we do typically have an emphasis on teaming and having different team members bring specific perspectives to a project. So wanted to make sure that I mentioned that for you guys. And then if you have any issues getting into the member portal or navigating to the appropriate place it is within that user interface, you can contact Zane. But just wanted to make sure I mentioned that for everyone. So is there any, and then I'll also mention too, if you are a member, another way of meeting potential team members is our working groups. So we have working groups for our technology roadmap. There's 5 of them, process design, materials, and then value chain and AM genome. For this project call, probably be like materials, process, maybe it could be anything though, really. People that would be interested in this technology. Yeah, participating in the working groups is a good way to meet members and then also going to our events. But yeah, project call teaming tool specifically for looking for partners or partnering with potential project leads that are looking for assistance.
All right. Looks like we have one more in the Q&A, and I think I would probably refer you to Core, Ali. Are there examples of past road mapping studies that scored highly and could be used as a reference model? I don't think that's one we can really answer, but I would just recommend Core. Just take a look through Core to anyone.
Yeah, so we do have previous projects that did road mapping studies. Yeah, you could check those out in Core to get some inspiration, I guess, of how they did things or, the results that they came to.
I've got another question for you guys. Larry Dickinson here again. The budget and time is pretty limited, but how would something like X Prize, with not a large prize bucket, on a technology or gap demonstration type project or article, does that fit outside the roadmap focus of the project goal, or help opportunities to delineate some of the gaps and improve answers?
I think maybe I was not understanding what were you saying. You were saying X Prize?
The old Ansari X Prize. I think mainly big things like, $25 million to launch something into space. Then everybody spends $200 or $300 million maybe building something to do it, but it's the prize doesn't cover costs usually, money. But a model like that, wherein the prize money would not be offered and expected to cover costs, but anyone who wanted to participate in it could prove a technology or material or process could meet whatever the identified gap in the technology or, that you wanted to divide it around. Might be an innovative way to get some people to submit for some very simple testing of some key aspect.
Okay. Yeah, that could be maybe something that we consider for like a future project call where people would be like making parts and stuff. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, yes, it could be a separate project call itself, but if you put out a $25,000 award and let anybody submit an article to be tested, you might get some input under even this project call to prove out those roadmap gaps in the technology or capability.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Since
I
there's not enough
understand.
budget to really do that in a real fashion, might be a way to leverage after that in an innovative way, but it also could dilute or distort because it does not make a fair comparison. Only people that choose to submit it, and you wouldn't get all apples and oranges compared probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe for future considerations, that's something that's could be pretty cool. But yeah, I think for this, it's just like yeah, kind of like just a landscape study assessment of current capabilities.
Gotcha.
Hey,
Thank
Larry.
you.
Larry, could you send that question into the project call question or the project call email? That way we make sure that we understood your question and get an answer.
Certainly.
Thank you. All right, I haven't seen any questions coming into the Q&A. Are there any other questions out there? All right, going once, going twice.
Jason, this is
Yes.
Dennis.
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Just a comment. Yeah, I've been listening to the questions and the ones that you end up forwarding my way. I just want to make sure I get a precise response because some of those are going to require some thought and some care in how I respond to that. So I've heard those questions and yeah, we'll get you a speedy response to the ones that were left unanswered or there's still some things to address.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, so with that, I think that's going to wrap up today's project call kickoff webinar. Like I said, if you do have additional questions, please get them into the project call email address by September 11th so that we can get them back to you answered fully by September 18th. Please remember the project call teaming portal that we now have on the website. And thanks everyone for joining. Have a great afternoon.